And welcome in everyone to LoneStarVarsity.com. I'm Zach Long, this is Phil Torino, getting you ready for the state semifinals. And we have two teams from our coverage area still alive and kicking. We'll start first with the Shallowater Mustangs. They're going to get Mineola on Friday in Brownwood. And of course the Seagraves Eagles, they're going to get Albany on Friday in Snyder. And Phil, both of these teams got to this point with some new wrinkles, didn't they?
Definitely, and these are things that you definitely miss if you just happen to be, watching the game casually or looking at the box score after. But I really want everyone to sort of delve into these results and how they got them. Yes, Corey Kyle's performance was remarkable against Crosbyton, and that's sort of how Seagraves got the win. But if you look at the first play from scrimmage, quarterback Tanner Rodriguez comes out in the spread with 4 wide receivers and no one behind him. That first snap goes for a 65-yard touchdown run. So right off the bat, you saw Coach Steve Herford looking to work in different wrinkles.
And with Shallowater, Phil, they went to the air.
Certainly. One of the things that people may not have missed because it was only a single play was Weston Elliott hit Cooper Ogle for a really big gain of more than 30 yards. And Elliott was the backup quarterback to Chris Contreras, who actually saw extended time when Contreras was out because of that injury. I think this is a great wrinkle. If you have him in the wideout position, he obviously can throw the ball extremely well. He's built like a tall, lanky wide receiver. But the fact that he was able to hit Ogle on something like that, I think gives Shallowater another dimension.
And before we move on to previewing these two games, let's go back to last week and the team we lost, Abernathy. They fall to Canadian.
The Sunday morning after that game, I spoke with Cassius Cunningham and Oscar Zapata, and we were discussing how the game sort of unfolded and whether or not they actually felt, on the field if the game was getting out of hand. Because sometimes if you're in the moment and you aren't peeking at the scoreboard, you might sort of miss just how wide that margin has gotten. They simply said that the pace, from Canadian was a bit too much. They had been briefed on it, and they had also seen spread offenses before and defended them very well in the regular season. But this sort of was a Canadian team that was just too much, for the Antelopes to handle.
And anyone from this area knows how good Canadian has been over the last few years, but still a hell of a season for Abernathy. Congratulations to them. Really a nice football team. Phil, let's go on to the state semifinal matchups. We're going to start first with Class 3A Shallowater, Mineola. We don't know a lot about Mineola right now, but we do know their defense is pretty darn good.
Yeah, I watched some film when Mineola played White Oak earlier this year, and White Oak is certainly not a pushover team at all. It was a state semifinalist last year, and really there's a standout linebacker and a defensive end for Mineola, and they are just excellent players. They come up with the pass rush directly up the field, and it was very impactful against White Oak. There's a lot more studying that I'll still be doing as the week wears on, and we'll get you all of those details as well. But you're right, the defensive line is a standout for Mineola.
And of course, Shallowater, which is practicing right behind us right now. They're very loose today. They've been in a good mood. They're a team that's been there before, and like we heard earlier from Cooper Ogle, correct?
Yep.
He said, we'll relax. It's the state semifinals. Nothing to worry about. We're just going to go play our football game. And I told these guys around here, that's a good attitude. I kind of like Shallowater just from that standpoint to have that calm about them. In Class 2A, though, the team we have talked at length about this season, the Seagraves Eagles, they're going to get Albany, just east of Abilene areas where that team comes from. What do we know about them?
Well, this is a team with an excellent pedigree. It has been to the state finals 5 times, and most recently in 2009. It's a very old-fashioned approach that Albany brings, but they've been very successful with it. And of course, if you keep in touch with us on LoneStarVarsity.com and the Lone Star Varsity Minute as well, there'll be more details. But I like Seagraves in their ability to move the ball, and they haven't really been stopped in that aspect. There are some things that may be concerning about the Albany defensive unit, but we'll get to that.
And they'll also be tested, obviously, with the running back from Seagraves. We have talked a ton about Corey Kyle. He's going to have his chance to shine. And both these teams, Shallowater and Seagraves, Phil, they are a win away from something very special, a state championship game berth. And, of course, all those now, including 6-man this weekend, are going to be played in Arlington. How would you like to be a part of that, seeing a 6-man game played in a stadium that all the combined enrollment wouldn't fill?
Right. I mean, it wouldn't even come in the ballpark of being able to fill. I think it's pretty compelling stuff. I'm sure the 6-man schools are absolutely ecstatic about that. But considering Jerry World, if you have the capacity of 110,000, if these schools, combine are
right.
what, 250? So
exactly. But that still will be a fun environment. And these two teams, Shallowater and Seagraves, they're going to try to get to that point. We're going to have full coverage of those games this week. Phil will be down in Snyder for Seagraves and Albany, and we'll also be in Brownwood for Shallowater versus Mineola. We have a lot more content coming up, don't we, Phil? The Lone Star Minute. You're going to pick these games. Only 2 of them. Can you fill a minute?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, Phil can talk a lot. We're good to go there. We're also going to have an interview with Shallowater coaches and players. We'll have that up Wednesday over at LubbockOnline.com and LoneStarVarsity.com. For now, though, we're going to bid you farewell and let you get ready for these all-important state semifinal matchups. This is Phil Torino. I'm Zach Long, and you're on LoneStarVarsity.com.